Welcome everyone to the E-Bell of Los Angeles. My name is Conrad Starr. I'm president of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council, and if you weren't born in the last 2 years, then you might know that this is our regular meeting space. So I feel very much like I'm at home. It's so nice to be here in person with everyone. We don't have to ask if we are on mute. We'll know right away. So this is a candidate forum night. We have 2 candidate forums as part of this meeting. This is an official meeting of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council by the advice of the city attorney. So this meeting does not include any board business. There are no votes, so there is really no business to be done at all. I would like to thank everyone who is involved in putting on this event. First, I'd like to thank the E-Bell of Los Angeles, who worked tirelessly with us to jump through all the hoops and hurdles of what might be the very first in-person meeting of the neighborhood council system since the start of the pandemic. But of course, I'd like to also thank those who came here as candidates. Sorry, the candidates are looking at me, so I'd like to thank them. Thank you very much. And you see, well, I'll let Dre take care of that part. Let's also thank those who put this together, though. That would be the members of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council, who include Juan Portillo, who was the point person for the CD5 portion of tonight's meeting, and Rafi Cantor, who is in charge of the CD13 portion. We also had the participation and support and wherewithal of a few other neighborhood councils. Those include the Palms Neighborhood Council and Gabriela Sotomayor. Is that correct? Where's Gabriela? Okay, great. She was part of it, and possibly some of her colleagues as well. And then we also had the Mid-City West Neighborhood Council, and Dre can tell you more about them in just a moment. And so we will have an intermission, or we'll call it a recess, between the 2 candidate forums, and that will be from approximately 7:15 to 7:45, and then the CD13 candidate forum will begin. And for that candidate forum, we had the participation and support of the Echo Park Neighborhood Council, so many thanks to them as well. I'll also, and I'm sorry, who am I thinking from Echo Park? Mansour Khan is who we are thinking from Echo Park. I've been on vacation. Well, I've been working out of the country. So let me also mention that we do have, by law, public comment at the end of this meeting. So as soon as the second candidate forum is complete, you will have an opportunity to give public comments, and we will limit that to 10 minutes. Yeah? It's not Q&A. There's no Q&A. And I've also been asked to just remind everyone that none of the participants in the planning of this are actively involved in the campaigns for those for whom they, for the portion of the night's events that they worked on. These neighborhood councils have not taken official positions. We do not. We are just another part of the city. And all the candidates were invited personally by me to participate in this event tonight at the exact same moment through BCC, I think it was. So hopefully it's a completely level playing field. We've certainly done our best. I know I've exceeded my 30 seconds. So with that, I'd like to, wrap it up. So, well, for that, I'm going to introduce Andrea Gutag, but she would like me to call her Dre.
Thank you, Conrad, for your lengthy 30 seconds. I'm going to jump right into it. So we are fortunate tonight that we have all 4 candidates, one via electronic future stuff, joining us for this last forum before the election. A lot of people here, I think, are directly involved with neighborhood councils, but for those of you who are unaware, I'm going to give you a quick background. So those of us who serve on neighborhood councils, I serve with Mid-City West, are elected officials, but our elections run separately from the rest of the city, state, and county election cycles. All of the 3 participating neighborhood councils that are part of the CD5 forum have an election coming up in 2023. That election date is Sunday, April 30th. We are unpaid. So please think kindly about all of the free time I put into these slides when you realize they're all different fonts and there are a lot of grammatical errors. And in terms of the service we give to the public, or what we try to do to boost the public, we are the first line of response and essentially stakeholders' closest ties to city halls. We act as liaisons between communities and city council offices, county supervisors, state offices, and sometimes even people at the national level. And what that means is that we will take positions on big issues. If there is something that is on a docket getting voted on, chances are we will weigh in on it. If there is something we would like to see done legislatively but isn't being done, we are able to write potential legislature and then kind of push our elected officials to pass it into law. We also oversee a very small budget that is funded by taxes. And with that money, we provide grants to neighborhood nonprofits, and we plan events like this forum. Sometimes they're informative or sometimes they're just fun. Palms Neighborhood Council recently did a community day where they had live music, they had an elementary school dance squad, and they had all of their elected officials at booths surrounded by food trucks, and it really looked awesome. Some of the fun events coming up are Mid-City West is doing a Juneteenth event at the Melrose Trading Post on June 19th, so please join us for that. So if that's what neighborhood councils do, what do city councils do? Who are these people we're hearing from tonight? So in Los Angeles, we have 15 members on our city council. So each of them represents about 250,000 constituents, hence the need for neighborhood councils. These people cannot speak to all 250 people directly, so they kind of rely on us to let people know what the masses are thinking. They serve 4-year terms with a maximum of 3 terms. Every 2 years, we vote on roughly half of the sitting council people at various odds and evens districts. This year, we're voting on the odds. In Los Angeles, there are primary legislative bodies. So that means they're making the laws, they're setting the taxes, and they're adjusting the budget as they see fit after it comes out of the mayor's office. So how do our elections work? I know this seems like it's a simple question, but it actually is a little bit complicated. A lot of people refer to this June election as a primary election, and that is because at state and national levels, this is in fact a primary. You will vote for our US senator, you will vote for a state senator, and the top 2 people in any of those specific races will make it to the November ballot for what is called a top 2. With our city elections, things are a little bit different. Although it's on this quote unquote primary ballot, if any candidate in any race gets more than 50% of the vote, they are deemed the winner. So we can't be sure that we're going to get to hear from 2 of these people again. So we're very excited to hear from all 4 of them tonight. All right, zipping right through my notes, guys. Thank you. How do you vote? So our 2022 election is happening right now. If you are in Los Angeles, you should automatically be mailed a ballot. If you have not received your ballot, chances are your registration is not up to date. Unfortunately, the window for changing your online registration for this election has closed, but you can still vote in person. Los Angeles is one of a few cities where you don't have a designated polling place. So you might remember even like 2008, 2012, we were frantically Googling, where do I go? Where will my name be? Now you can just Google polling place. You can go to any of them. If you have your mail-in ballot, you can hand it off in person. If you don't have a mail-in ballot, you can vote the very same day and update your registration so you will get your November ballot in the mail to your current address. All right, I am now done with the lecture part of the evening. I appreciate those of you that kept your eyes open the whole time. And moving forward, I know it's not me you want to hear from, I know it's these 4. And I also know that we have a very special guest here tonight moderating. A lot of you probably know him from our Fox 11 evening news, or you political junkies like myself will know him from the all-state broadcasted television show, The Issue Is, where he really gets to dig in with candidates. He's had one-on-one sit-downs with Joe Biden, with Donald Trump, with Hillary Clinton, kind of a who's who. So hopefully one of these 4 will one day be in that who's who name. So 6-time Emmy winner, take it away, Alex Michelson.
Thank you, everybody. It is an honor to be here with you tonight, and I just want to give you all a shout out for being here tonight. Democracies cannot survive without a well-educated public, and decisions are made by those who show up. And the fact that you're here, taking time out of your night to learn about these candidates, learn about these issues, is incredibly important and gives me hope in terms of our citizenry. Since I'm surrounded by a bunch of politicians, I'll take 3 seconds to shamelessly self-promote. My name is Alex Michelson. I anchor the evening news, usually at this time, at 5, at 6, and 10 o'clock, weeknights on Fox 11. We host a show at 7 o'clock every night called the Fox 11 News Special Report, where we get to really dig in on sort of the big issues with a lot of policymakers. And it's a show that's unlike anything else on in local news. And then we do this show called The Issue Is, which airs Fridays at 10:30, Sundays at 9 a.m., which is a statewide political show. This week, we're going to have Karen Bass and Anthony Rendon talking about guns. And on that show, I get a lot of freedom to ask what I want and ask follow-ups and have conflict between people. And in this forum tonight, I got none of that because this is sponsored by the city, and there's very clear rules that I'm not allowed to break, or else I'll never be invited back to do anything ever again, and I think they'll take my car or something. So I'm going to try to follow the rules as much as possible to keep this thing fair and to give everybody an equal opportunity. So the way it's going to work tonight, we're going to hear opening statements from each of the candidates. Then we're going to do what's called long forum questions, where people get a little bit more time to answer. Then we'll do short answer questions, which, as you would guess, are a little bit shorter. And then we will be doing closing remarks. So the order in which candidates will speak for the opening, closing, and each question has been randomized using an online list randomizer. So I think the most complicated part of this night is going to try to remember who's speaking when. I'll try to do my best in following the order here. Let's begin with the opening statements. Scott, you randomly were chosen to get to go first, so take it away. You've got 1 minute.
Testing? Okay, there we go. Always a tech problem at the beginning, right? It's wonderful to be here at this last candidate forum before the election. My name is Scott Epstein. I am running to make LA work for all of us. And I will bring leadership to the city council that is grounded in community, guided by compassion, and focused on results. I am a longtime community leader and a public policy analyst. I was the chair of my neighborhood council for 7 years, and I founded the Midtown Los Angeles Homeless Coalition. I am running on 3 major priorities. 1, making our city affordable. 2, ending homelessness in a compassionate way. And 3, taking local action on climate change. And I have been doing this work at the local level and have built substantial change right here in the 5th District. I brought millions of dollars into the Mid-City West community for safer streets. I was able to get the city to create the only new bridge home shelter in the entire council district at a repurposed motel on La Cienega Boulevard. I'm wrapping it up now. I think that's what differentiates me. I look forward to this conversation.
Okay. And it's going to be a little challenging because none of us are able to see the timer. So work with us here. Jimmy, to you, 1 minute.
Restart the time. Yeah, good.
When you hit your last 10 seconds, that's your wild.
Trey is nothing if not a great timekeeper.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Jimmy Biblars. It's an honor to be in the historic Ebell Theater. And this is our 30th candidate forum. And I would just like to say thank you to Scott and Sam and to Katie. This has been quite a ride. And there is no 3 people I would rather have been on this journey with for the first 18 months of this race. I am running to make Los Angeles a place where everyone can afford to thrive. I'll tell you a little bit about my backstory. I grew up in Pico Robertson in the heart of Jewish LA. And an early political origin story, when I was 12, my family was evicted from our half of a duplex apartment. An out-of-state landlord wanted to turn the 2-unit duplex into a McMansion on the corner. And in the aftermath, we were chased around the city by housing affordability, and both my parents struggled very seriously with substance use. And that experience showed me the importance of politics. It showed me that politics matters for my own life and the lives of people around me. I now teach at UCLA Law School. I was at Harvard for college and graduate school and law school. My academic work was all about the rise of income and wealth inequality, particularly how it intersects with issues of housing. And that's really the heart of our campaign, housing affordability and how we can make LA a place where everyone can afford to thrive.
Thank you very much. Sam, to you.
I'm going to stand so I can see the timer. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Yebri. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm running for city council because the city that I love the city that enabled my refugee family to live the American dream, the city where I'm raising 4 young kids and I've started a business, is broken. And the career politicians and their family members and their staffers who broke our city are incapable and unwilling to turn our city around with real leadership. I've spent the last 20 years as a nonprofit leader, as a lawyer, as a city commissioner, fighting to improve Los Angeles on 10 different nonprofit boards and city commissions. I'm building affordable housing right now in the 5th district for individuals with special needs. I have fought for tenants and workers on the board of Bethesda Legal Services as a pro bono lawyer. Meanwhile, my wife and I and our 4 young kids have watched the city that we love decline on every single issue, an explosion of homelessness, poverty, crime, and corruption. And that's why I'm running for Los Angeles City Council, to fight for the city that's safe, vibrant, clean, and affordable for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll do the claps after the opening statements, but after that, maybe we don't do that so we can give more time to everybody. Katie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be in person, but my toddler's got COVID and I don't want to get anyone sick. I'm an environmental attorney, a policymaker, and a mom to 3 young kids, and I'm running because I want LA to be a place where we can all thrive, but we need effective, ethical, and proven leadership to make that happen. I spent 10 years in the private sector, most recently as the general counsel of a climate change nonprofit. And for the last 6.5 years, I made policy for LA County's 10 million people as a senior policy advisor to LA County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, where I created a utility, LA County's first sustainability office, and one of our region's largest jobs and infrastructure programs, Measure W. I have a record of creating coalitions and problem solving. It's why I've been endorsed by the LA Times, Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, most of the elected leaders whose districts overlap Council District 5, and hundreds of community leaders. I'm really grateful for the chance to be here tonight on Zoom, if not in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so now we go to the long form questions. The candidates will be asked identical questions and will each have 1 minute to answer. There will be no rebuttals nor additional time granted, which is too bad, but that's okay. All right, question 1 is on bridge housing. A majority of LA residents say they support building more bridge housing to address homelessness. And yet when bridge housing developments are proposed, adjacent residents often protest the plans, sometimes successfully. So where do you plan to build bridge housing? And how will you overcome local resistance? The order for this will be Katie, Scott, Sam, and Jimmy. Katie, let's start with you on that question about bridge housing.
So bridge housing is a really important component of our homelessness puzzle, and we need to be building it all over the city, and that includes in the 5th Council District. And I think the way we make it more palatable for the communities that live surrounding a proposed project is by having an inclusive iterative process where we are transparent, we bring people in early, we help them understand what it is, what it isn't. We make sure that we're mitigating any impacts to the community. And I have a track record of doing that sort of work, and I'm looking forward to leading on that at the council, to bring community in, make sure they're comfortable with something, and then site it and build it, and make sure we're helping get people off the streets as quickly as possible. Thanks.
All right, and just to reiterate, the question is where specifically do you plan to build bridge housing, and how will you overcome local resistance? Scott, to you.
It's a wonderful question. First of all, I'm the only one that's actually gotten this done at a repurposed motel in Los Angeles Boulevard. I strongly believe we have to do it everywhere, and that we have to do both temporary housing and permanent supportive housing, because we know that permanent housing is not going to be available fast enough to stabilize individuals' lives. We know that getting roofs over people is the most important thing. And you know, the issue is political will. You know, I believe that the key reason that we have not made progress on this issue and others in Los Angeles is not for a lack of resources or smart ideas. It's for a lack of political will. You gotta just do it. You work with the communities to do it, and I think it's important to do it everywhere. We need like Miracle Mile, there's an LA DOT parking lot where we could build affordable housing. On Robertson, there's a garage where we could easily do safe parking. There's lots and lots of locations, but we have to do it across the community to create buy-in from everybody in the district. Yeah.
Sam, where do we build, and how do we overcome when people say, not my neighborhood?
So bridge housing is the way we save lives. Every single night, 5 Angelinos, our neighbors, are dying on our streets because the leaders are not leading. I've gone to every neighborhood association, homeowner association who historically have fought these projects, and I've said, look, this is what we have to do. One, it's morally the right thing to do, because to save our neighbors' lives. Second, it's a legal obligation. Judge Carter and the federal courts have required us to proportionally build bridge housing in every neighborhood. And third, this is how we clean up our city and help transition people out of our parks, next to our schools, next to our libraries. We build transitional housing. We use anti-camping ordinances to help transition people there. And where we're going to do it, there's some places on Cotner, on Sepulveda, on La Cienega, and the city owns 7,500 parcels of land throughout the city and the county. And there's 37 acres by LAX. It's time for us to act urgently, just like the federal government did outside the VA when 2 veterans who served our country were murdered by other veterans. The federal government came in and helped transition people into interim housing and into hotel rooms, into mental health hospitals almost overnight.
All right, thank you so much. Jimmy, again, where do we do it? And what happens when people say not in my neighborhood?
So you need 2 things to overcome resistance. First is messaging, and second is political courage. On the messaging piece, homelessness is a citywide issue that demands citywide solutions. We all have a part to play, and bridge housing in our neighborhoods should be a point of pride for folks in every neighborhood. This is an epic human rights crisis, and we should have it, bridge housing as a badge of honor for all of our neighborhoods. We can also talk about creative messaging strategies. I often ask folks a series of questions about the housing crisis, especially groups that think it may not affect them. I say, how many of your children after college move back in with you? And 3/4 of the hands go up. I say, how many of your children for up to 5 years after college still live with you? I say, how many of your children have moved out of state in the last 2 to 3 years? And 3/4 of the hands go up. Those are creative messaging strategies that can get even the most hardened people on board with a slate of homeless and housing affordability interventions. And the second is political courage. We need to elect leaders who will take on, not embrace and applaud resistant forces, because this is an emergency.
Thank you very much. Now to our next question, which is going to be about earthquakes. The order for this, randomly chosen, is going to be Jimmy, Katie, Scott, and Sam. Per the USGS, there is near certainty that a magnitude 7.5 or higher earthquake will hit within the lifetime of children who are in school today. What does the city need to do now to prepare for that big one? Jimmy, let's start with you.
Absolutely. So the big one, right? Like the joke until it's not funny anymore for all Angelinos, right? I will say 2 things, and I think COVID is a real model of what resilience means. There's infrastructural resilience. That's ensuring that all of our buildings and our new development projects are up to seismic code. It's modeling off many Japanese models of really cutting edge technologies that keep buildings from creating damage even in 7.0 plus earthquakes. That's in some ways the easy part, the part where there's more agreement among civil engineers and earthquake engineers. The more difficult piece is physical or technological infrastructure that is also essential to a city's urban resilience. That's about broadband access. That's about numbers of folks living on the streets. That's about poverty. Tackling all of those issues are also proactive earthquake resilience efforts, because we know that any effects of a severe earthquake are going to amplify poverty, housing affordability, all of those issues. And we need to start framing those issues as part of earthquake resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, to you, your earthquake plan.
So the city's emergency management department is wildly underfunded. I've heard it described to me as budget dust. That's what they actually get. And so we need a robust, well-funded emergency management department. And then we need to also be deploying significant, sufficient resources out to the communities, probably at the neighborhood council level, if not more granular, at the block-to-block level with block captains, making sure they have the resources they need, making sure we're building redundancy into the systems. I met with many of the folks who are tasked with being the emergency first responders for their blocks, for their neighborhoods, and they say they're getting older and they don't have much help. And if something happens to them, God forbid, there's nobody who's going to be there for their neighborhood. And so I think we really need to overhaul the whole system, make sure we're adequately funding it. As you say, it's not a question of if, but a question of when the next big one's going to come. And we're really just not ready for it. And the way we get ourselves ready for it is by sufficiently resourcing it at all levels, from City Hall all the way down to our neighborhoods and our streets.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Absolutely. So one of the success stories actually of Garcetti's first administration was getting the soft story buildings repaired, which is one of 2 key building types that are vulnerable to earthquakes. And we got it done. All of those dingbats are pretty much safe now. There's another kind of building which is pre-1970s concrete, which we have a longer timeline to fix. And I think we need to look at that because I'm worried. We have some key examples right here in the fifth, including the towers at Park La Brea. So I think we need to shorten that timeline. And then we need to support our communities in terms of getting ready. So my friend Tao Tran is here at Mid-City West. I know she does a lot of work with Ready Your LA Neighborhood. We need to be partnering with neighborhood councils and other great groups to galvanize communities to make sure that they're ready and have a plan when the next earthquake comes.
Thank you very much. Sam, finally to you, your earthquake plan.
Well, as a father of 4 young kids, this is a huge issue. And I remember the Northridge earthquake really clearly. And Patty Lombard and I have talked about the need to retrofit the eBell as well for its future. 3 things that we have to focus on. One is infrastructure. We live in a city that's 30 years overdue for our infrastructure upgrade. Our streets, our sidewalks, our sewer, our grid, our water system are all antiquated. We need a major investment. Second, not just the city halls, emergency department, but our firefighters need investment. We have the same firefighters roughly that we had in the 1980s. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Los Angeles City's firefighters, paramedics, and our first responders, because I know we have to make a major commitment to help them do their job, and the brave men and women of LAPD as well. We're down to 9,300 police officers. We need 10,000. Back when we had 10,000 under Mayor Virgosa, under whom I served. And third, neighborhoods need to be empowered. Money needs to flow to the local communities. We have to make sure every neighborhood has the resources. They have emergency preparedness kits. This is a local issue. And studies have shown when neighborhoods know each other, have worked together, they can sustain emergencies better.
All right, thank you very much. This next question is about the issue of governance. The random order for this will be Scott, Sam, Jimmy, and then Katie. You guys have all been doing this for a minute now, this idea of talking with all these different people from all these different neighborhoods. Give an example from this campaign where stakeholder input, doing one of these meetings, has led you to change your mind on a city issue.
That is a fascinating question, and it's going to take me a second to think about that. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a community leader for a decade, and I always learn things from talking to community members. But I'm drawing a bit of a blank right now. You know, one learning experience for me has been, my community leadership has been in the flats, not the hillsides. We have 2 very distinct geographies in this district. And so for me, it's been a great learning experience to learn about the specific issues that take place, whether it's being able to insure your home in a fire zone or party houses, which we see here in the flats. So for me, that's been one of the biggest learnings. Just, I was not familiar with those issues as much.
Challenge sometimes of getting the question first. All right, Sam, to you.
Yeah, so the test of a good policymaker is the person who's able to bring into practice a difficult issue. So I come to this as a fighter for tenants. I've spent the last 10 years as a pro bono leader, as a policymaker with Bedside Legal Services, trying to change state laws to help folks who are being taken advantage of by their landlords. And there was a recent proposal by Mike Bond and others about making it easier for folks to get access to units and making it more difficult for landlords to screen people out because of credit history or criminal history or litigation history. And at first that may have made sense, right? But when you go and talk to people and they say, hey, look, I am a landlord, I have a duplex, I need to understand who's going to come in and live next to me, right? And being able to understand if that person has a violent criminal history is important to me. And when you actually talk to people on the ground about what the real world consequences are of these ordinances and how it makes people feel less safe, that's the job of a council member, not to be ideological and not to grab every policy idea that might be popular on Twitter, but to listen to people, understand how it's going to affect their lives.
Jimmy, to you.
So I'm an academic. Academics are not always known for being the most grounded of folks, maybe a little up in the clouds occasionally. And I think I started this campaign very much with that mindset that what city council did was tackle poverty and inequality and homelessness. And I didn't, until I engaged with so many hundreds and thousands of constituents, what neighborhood services actually mean for people and why they are the most important role of the city councilor. And I'm going to pose something to you. The pothole, the proverbial pothole of local government why it means so much. And the reason it means so much is because the pothole symbolizes trust. It symbolizes accountability. It symbolizes the idea that you have a problem in your community that is hindering your mobility, it is hindering your life in a meaningful way, and that your elected leader is responsible for helping ameliorate that problem. And the pothole repair and the slate of neighborhood services that accompany that are the greatest anti-corruption tool that we have in the city, because they're where the trust is developed between citizen and elected official. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, Katie.
Yeah, so one place where my position has sort of shifted as I've gotten deeper and deeper into it and how it's impacted our communities of Council District 5 is around transit-oriented communities. And when it first came out, I was cautiously optimistic about it. And I still think we definitely need more housing, particularly affordable and workforce housing. But I think we need, well, I know we need to update our community plans. And I think we should really be focused as communities on deciding together where we're going to put that housing and that density. And that stringing it along all of our major corridors without building enough affordable and workforce as part of that is really not the best approach. So I've come around to the idea that we need at a minimum to really make some big changes to the TOC program to make sure it works for our communities, that it's providing the housing we need and that we're putting it in the right places. And ideally we'll fold that into larger community plan updates so that we're putting our housing mostly affordable and workforce near our job centers and near metro stations, because we have a bunch of metro stations coming through, and that presents a huge opportunity for us to do this the right way.
Thank you very much. Our next question is about an issue she just talked about, which is affordable housing. The order here, random, is Sam, Jimmy, Katie, and Scott. As we know, most new construction in Los Angeles is for market rate housing, which is unattainable for a whole lot of folks. What can the city council do to make housing more affordable, Sam?
Right. So we have a massive affordable housing crisis, and the city of Los Angeles, as we all can agree, is not serious about it. First of all, we need to build more affordable housing, but we can't make it so unaffordable that it doesn't pencil for anyone to get in that business. So we have to prioritize and streamline the construction of new housing. We have to convert industrial, retail, office into housing with adaptive reuse ordinances. We have to, and same thing with motels and hotels. Second, we have to acquire hotels at a lower cost. It could be a fraction. We can't be spending $837,000 to build brand new housing when we can do it at a much lower price point when the housing exists. And then third, we don't talk about this enough, is preserving naturally affordable housing, right? Every time something that exists that's affordable gets torn down to build something that's a TOC that's 10 stories and only 10 units are going to be affordable, we just lost units there, right? And so those people may never come back. So preserving units that are already naturally affordable is imperative. And if something's going to get built, you got to make sure it's a net win and a net plus with more affordable units. And what we don't talk about is a workforce housing. I hope you got a question about that too, but that's imperative that we build a workforce housing.
All right, Jimmy, to you. How do we make housing more affordable?
So housing, as I mentioned in my introduction, is really the cause of my life. It shapes the course of my life and my family's life. It's just very, very important to me. The baseline is that we need more housing. You don't bring down the cost of housing without more of it. That's Econ 101. We need to fight for every affordable housing dollar that we can get. But ultimately, the number of people that live in government-subsidized affordable housing is incredibly, incredibly small. So we cannot rely solely on government-subsidized affordable housing to get us out of our affordability crisis. We need to be regulating our private housing market, our private real estate market in ways which is the job of government, to regulate industry so that it is naturally producing housing that Angelenos can afford at the scale that we need. We cannot solely be relying on the government subsidy. We have to be regulating the market in a way so that it is producing more of the housing we need. Our plan focuses on underutilized commercial transit corridors and spurring construction of more affordable units along those corridors. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, to you.
So there's no one thing we need to be doing. And as a former land use attorney, I have experience here. There's several things have already been talked about. I'll mention them briefly. One, we need to do a better job of preserving existing naturally occurring affordable units. They tend to be rent controlled. They tend to be older. They tend to cost less in terms of monthly rent. So we have to be thoughtful about preserving those. We also need to enter into public-private partnerships. There's a great example of a project in Chinatown that the county recently finished. It was a partnership between a private developer and the county. 30–40% of the project was affordable. It had great community assets, and the county basically brought funding to the project. It's on county property, and it resulted in a really wonderful, largely affordable and workforce project. And so we need more of that. And then finally, we need to deploy rent vouchers. The rent vouchers are a very efficient, easy, quick way to take what otherwise would be a market rate unit and make it affordable for people. Universal basic income, rent vouchers. Angelina's only 1 out of every 10 Angelinos who qualifies for a federal voucher gets one. We can be supplementing and filling in those gaps at the local level.
Thank you very much. Finally, Scott.
So this issue is personal for me. I'm a renter and I've lived in poorly maintained housing with very little leverage to make sure that my landlords made the basic changes for suitable living. And part of the reason why I think abundance is one piece of the puzzle is because we should be, the landlord should be competing for us, not the other way around. The other thing that we need, a few other things that we need to do are we need to make sure the construction that we do is less expensive. Right now, the most naturally affordable types of housing for apartments, like bungalow courts, like fourplexes, like duplexes, like courtyard apartment buildings that Angelinos love are illegal to build. That's a problem. And number 3, we need to speed up the process of getting housing done, because time is money in housing construction. When we're putting up a whole bunch of roadblocks to all kinds of housing, including very low income housing for our unhoused neighbors, and then we're surprised when the price balloons.
Scott, thank you. Now to question 5. If this was Dancing with the Stars, this is what we would call the freestyle. This is where you essentially get to go off on wherever you want to go. This question, you're going to get 2 minutes to answer, a whole extra minute. And Scott, this is a nice one to start off with. So the order will be Scott, Jimmy, Katie, and Sam. Hopefully this is not a stumper. What hasn't been talked about enough in this race? You've got 2 minutes, Scott.
Yeah, so I want to talk about an issue that has been discussed, but where I think that the discourse has not been ideal. So that's how we deal with homelessness, and how we get roofs over folks' heads, and whether we take a care approach or an enforcement approach. You know, my competitor, Sam Yebri, is making a big issue that he is the only candidate that supports this anti-camping ordinance. And there's a lie in our discourse that is the way to deal with encampments. Look, encampments present a public safety and health issue for both housed folks and unhoused folks alike. But the evidence is clear that this anti-camping ordinance doesn't work. A year out from Echo Park, most of the people are either unhoused or have died. And we have, on the other hand, we have council members like Nithya Raman who are taking a care approach and getting results. So in Studio City, she was able to eliminate an encampment that was at the Hollywood Bowl parking lots, and then it was swept. It moved right across the streets, adjacent to businesses and residents. It was even more of an issue, and she was able to get it done. How? By sending outreach workers, resourcing them, coordinating them, plugging in our unhoused neighbors to the specific needs and services that were specific to them, and connecting them to housing. And that encampment is no longer. That is the approach that can actually deal with encampments and our homeless crisis, right? We need a comprehensive strategic outreach approach, and we need the places to send folks to. I am laser focused on getting projects all across the 5th District up and running in the first 100 days so we can stabilize people's lives. I invite you to be a part of that journey. We can do it together.
Thank you very much. Jimmy, to you.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've all had our front doors flooded with attack mailers. Almost $500,000 spent. Flip-flop Yaroslavsky, landlord shill Yebri, the attacks are flying in both directions. This is not what CD5 is about. This is not our values, okay? We have real, serious, and time-sensitive issues facing our community right now. Homelessness won't be solved with $500,000 of mudslinging. The streets will not get safer if we're leading with the example of verbally assaulting the people we disagree with. So I say to all of you tonight, you have options. You have real, bona fide options. Politics does not have to be this. We have worked so hard to run a positive campaign. From day one, our campaign has been about ideas. It's why we have 19 different policy plans on our website. It's why you have never received an attack mailer from us, because we are laser focused on coming up with comprehensive, structural, deep solutions to our biggest challenges. We need to make LA a place where everyone can afford to thrive. I know CD5, I grew up here, I live here. This is not who we are. It's not the kind of representation we want. It's not how we handle our disagreements, and it's certainly not how we try to win elections. Our campaign has knocked on over 25,000 doors as of today. We are talking to people about what the city can do for them, not about why you shouldn't vote for the others. And our message is resonating because it comes from lived experience and a vision for what our city can be. A city where the government has the people's backs. I'm Jimmy Biblars. I am humbly asking for your vote by June 7th. Thank you very much.
All right, Katie, the freestyle to you.
So people often ask me how I'm different from the other candidates, and I tell them the same thing every time, which is experience and temperament. I want to talk a little bit about each. First, experience. I'm the only person in this race who's actually worked in government for my job as a full-time job. I have a proven track record of getting big things done using the tools of government in partnership with communities. Because of my work at the county, I understand that so many of the challenges we're facing are regional and intersectional, from homelessness to public health, to our economy, to public safety. These are all complex challenges, and they require nuanced solutions. And adults, people who know how to work across jurisdictions and understand where the money is and how to effectively leverage it, is going to be really important. Because the budgets go like this, and the city's budget is a fraction of the county's, which is a fraction of the state's, which is a fraction of the Fed's. We can't solve all this on our own. We need to be collaborating up. I'm ready to make real progress starting on day one. Second is temperament. We need collaborators and problem solvers on the city council. When you're one of 15 and you need 7 other people to agree with you to get anything done, you'd better be collaborative. And you can get a lot more done if you don't care who gets the credit. This is how I've been able to get some really hard stuff done at the county, things that people have been trying for 30, 40 years to get done. It's how I'll lead on the council. And it's this combination of experience and temperament that explains why I have the endorsements of the LA Times, the Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood, elected leaders from Karen Bass to Sheila Kuehl to Cindy Comlager to hundreds of community leaders. LA is the second largest city in the country, and this seat is incredibly important. We need folks who are actually ready to step in and do the job right now, because I've already been doing it. I'm ready to be doing it. I'm ready to step in and lead. It's not enough to be angry. It's not enough to be just eager or just smart. We need folks who are ready to get in and do the job right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And a note to all of our candidates. Apparently there's people watching on Zoom or having a little bit of a hard time hearing. So if you can, speak directly into the mic so that they can hear people that are streaming at home. Sam, to you.
So what differentiates me from the others in this race, including the career politicians and the ideologues, is 2 things. One is my policy ideas. You can read all about them on my website at samforla.com. But the big issues, one, public safety. It hasn't even come up. We haven't talked about gun violence. We haven't talked about mental health on our streets, right? We need more police officers, not less, not an audit. Second, on mental health, we need mental health beds. We need to change our state laws. We have to use every tool possible to get people who are suffering and dying on our streets the mental health care they need now. And third, on homelessness, we got to build more shelters immediately, not stop spending $837,000 of our tax dollars every single day. But the second thing that differentiates me is that talk is cheap. And I've actually been doing this work for almost 20 years in our community throughout the 5th district. Others talk about building affordable housing. I'm doing it right now. We're building a 64-unit mixed-use, mixed-income housing project for adults with developmental disabilities on Pico, and it took us 3 years to get our permits. That's not okay. Others talk about fighting for tenants. I've actually done it. I fought for disabled single mothers who are being evicted from their homes from slumlords. I've been in court in the unlawful detainer courts. I'm doing this work as a board member of Aesthetic Legal Services as well for the last decade. And third, people talk about public safety when it comes up in the other forums. I've served our city as a gun violence prevention task force. I went through LAPD Citizen Academy. I'm the only candidate who's calling for more police officers right now because we're understaffed and undermanned right now in our streets. And I've been serving our neighborhood association in Westwood as the chair of our public safety committee. I've been doing this work for almost 20 years, and that's why I have the broadest coalition of support, business and labor, progressives and moderates, 1,300 leaders in the 5th district, from the PTA, presidents, the church and synagogues, because they know me, they trust me, and it's time for new leadership. And I'm the only one who shows that I'm going to be the one who's going to act with urgency and common sense now.
All right, now we're going to move into the short form questions. I think your wife is voting for you, by the way. Each candidate will be asked if they agree or disagree with a statement, okay? Agree or disagree. And then you got 15 seconds to defend that position. And if it's just agree and you don't want to defend it, save the time, great. The order for each question is listed at the bottom of every slide. The person with their name underlined will lead us off. So here's an example. Let's put this up on the screen. Agree or disagree? Neighborhood councils deserve more funding. So in this instance, Jimmy would go first, followed by Scott and Katie and Sam. We'll restart the 15-second timer as each turn comes up, and don't forget to speak into the mic. Okay, so we'll start this next round. It's going to be Jimmy, Sam, Scott, and Katie. Agree or disagree, Jimmy? People living outside make the streets less safe.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes, it's unsafe for them, and it's unsafe for neighborhoods.
Scott.
Yes. As I said in my previous answer, encampments present public safety and health issues for housed and unhoused folks alike. The difference is in how we get it done.
Katie.
Yes.
All right. Here's my question. Agree or disagree? In-N-Out is the best fast food in Los Angeles. Sam.
It's not a CD5 chain or not a CD5 business. Apple Pan.
Oh, look at that. There's local government. Katie.
Agree.
Agree. Jimmy.
Agree.
At Scott.
You know, I rarely agree with Sam, but Apple Pan is amazing, so I'm going to say disagree.
Okay. Agree or disagree? The need to build housing outweighs the need for historic preservation. The order for this will be Scott, Katie, Sam, and Jimmy. Scott, let's start with you.
I would have to say yes, if it's a yes or no, but I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I've been a supporter of many historic preservation projects. We can do both at the same time.
Katie.
Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other. I think we absolutely have to do both. Historic communities and buildings are part of what makes LA special, and we also obviously need a lot more housing.
Sam.
We have to do both, and what's missing there is are the words affordable and workforce housing. We just don't need more housing. We don't just need more luxury. We need more affordable workforce housing.
And Jimmy.
More housing is an absolute emergency. Historical preservation is wonderful. I live in a 1919 building, no dishwasher, no refrigerator, no air conditioning, but boy, was it beautiful. I love historic buildings, but we cannot let it be a veto point for the housing we so desperately need across the income spectrum.
This next question, the order will be Katie, Jimmy, Sam, and Scott. Agree or disagree? The police department, Katie, is currently funded at the right level.
No, I think it probably needs some additional funding. Reform costs money. I also support an audit to figure out how best to deploy the resources they already have. But I do think the current budget isn't enough for the number of officers we probably need on the street.
Jimmy.
Yes, but public safety certainly is not. We need to think more broadly about the slate of institutions that keep us safe. That's mental health professionals. That's homeless service providers. That's the health and educational resources that form the core of enduring public safety.
Sam, agree or disagree? The police department is currently funded at the right level.
I disagree. We need to make investments in hiring more police officers, in training, in recruiting, more technology, and just bringing this department to the 21st century, and that requires funding.
Scott.
I agree. but I think over time, we need to be reducing the police budget. And actually, all of the candidates agree that we need to reallocate certain duties away from police officers. If we're doing that hard work, the proportion of our dollars spent on policing over time should go down and we will be a safer city.
All right, agree or disagree? The city council should be expanded to include more members. The order for this will be Sam, Jimmy, Katie, and Scott. Sam, do you think it should be bigger?
I agree, and I was the first candidate in this race to put out a government reform package on my website, and includes increasing the size of city council to 30 members. It's necessary. You can't represent Miracle Mile and Palms and Bel Air. There's two different and two disparate.
Jimmy.
I agree, but I don't think it's the anti-corruption silver bullet that so many think that it will be. More important is removing some of the land use discretionary decision-making from city council. If you want to remodel your home or build a 500-unit hotel that runs through an individual city council member's signature, removing that power is all the more important.
Katie.
I don't necessarily think that expanding the council is going to solve the problems. I think providing additional resources to the council offices so they can have more staff out in the field, better responsive to constituent needs. That's how we get our offices more responsive. If you look at Chicago, they've got tons of council members and they're about as corrupt as they come.
Scott, agree or disagree? City council should be bigger.
I agree. And I think one of the best things about this is it would improve representation in the city. So you'd get a more diverse council and you would be able to have more grassroots candidates that would be able to afford to actually run in a district rather than have to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. That, by the way, would be better for our political discourse as well.
Next up, agree or disagree, and this will be, the order will be Jimmy, Scott, Katie, and Sam. School playgrounds and the fields should be open to the public on weekends. Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful, one of the best ideas that has emerged out of the campaign. That is a tremendous green space resource. I grew up in a duplex apartment. We didn't have a backyard. We had a patch of asphalt that we called the middle. Parks were very important to us, and I think this is a wonderful way to get more of them.
Scott.
Yes, absolutely. This is called community school parks. It's one of the things I'm most excited about doing when I'm elected council member. The future of Los Angeles is doing a lot of things with the space that we have, not one thing with each piece of space. This is one part of that.
Katie.
Absolutely. Measure W, the Safe Clean Water Program, which voters adopted in the fall of 2018, does this. We're going to put billions of dollars on greening our schools and turning them into community parks, community hubs, and we're going to enter into partnerships with school districts to make sure that it's open to community on the weekends and when school's not in session.
Finally, Sam.
I agree, but the career politicians have been talking about this for a long time. There's a model in Oakland community schools. We got to replicate it and act with urgency to do it. And we're massively under parked as far as big parks goes and green space. We need more trees, more parks. And one immediate solution is to get through the concerns about opening up our schools. We got to do it.
Okay, on the issue is we always have a few fun questions. Agree or disagree, Jimmy? The Dodgers will win the World Series this year.
Always, right? You got to say always.
Scott.
Agree.
Katie.
I hope so.
Sam.
Not if Max Muncy's hitting $150 and we don't have another starting pitcher.
Oh, wow. Some pessimism there. Agree or disagree? I would vote to ratify the 2023 mayoral budget as written. Scott, would you?
Disagree. I think we need to be moving faster on reallocating resources to the professionals, the mental health professionals and service providers that can actually do the work of outreach into our unhoused neighbors. So I would have been a leader on that.
Jimmy.
Disagree.
Katie.
Disagree. I'd like to see us spending more money on homelessness prevention, among other things.
And finally, Sam.
Disagree. Our council, the job of the city council is to fight back and come up with some better approaches. There's a whole bunch of things. We're not inspecting our oil and gas wells. We need to fund those jobs. We're not enforcing Airbnb rules. We have to fund inspectors. And then we need to fund a right to counsel for every low-income tenant who's about to face eviction when this moratorium goes away, and that's going to be imperative, and there's not enough funding there for it.
All right. The next order will be Katie, Scott, Jimmy, and Sam. Katie, we'll start with you. Agree or disagree? There should be a vacancy tax for unrented apartments.
Yeah, I'm open to this. I think it could be a good way to incentivize the renting out of places. Right now, you've got a lot of half-empty market rate buildings, and it's because the rents that they're charging are too high. So I'm interested in exploring it.
Scott.
Yes, I agree. I think this could be a useful tool. It's been somewhat successful in Vancouver. It's an opportunity to get some revenue for affordable housing. I don't think it's a panacea, but I think it could be one tool in a kit.
Jimmy?
Yeah, as a theory, but I think that in the way we've seen vacancy taxes play out, it's an idea that plays into a vision of the root problem of the housing scarcity crisis being one of tremendous vacancy, when that is just not reality. We live in an incredibly scarce and tight housing market. I don't see this as producing much by way of revenue.
Sam?
So it's actually, I don't think it's legal, so I think it'll expose the city to liability, and it has had some mixed results in Vancouver and elsewhere where it's been tried. It's not going to solve the problem. We need to build more affordable workforce housing and act with urgency to do it. This is not going to solve the problem.
All right. Next one is going to be, the order is going to be Jimmy, Sam, Scott, and Katie. Agree or disagree? If I do not win this election, I will not run for any city, county, or state office with the next 2 election cycles. Jimmy?
You know, I recently took a break from the campaign and got to see great LA band Haim. Any Haim fans in the audience? No? Okay. And they have a great song, you know, and I'm going to say, you know what, now I'm in it. So that is, I'm going to say disagree.
All right. Sam?
The only job I want is a council member. I don't want to go to Sacramento or DC. The issues that face the city that I love are in Los Angeles: homelessness and crime and poverty. If I don't win this seat, I'm going to run again in 4 years because the city is going down a cliff. We're at a crossroads. And I know I have the private, nonprofit, and government experience necessary to fix our city.
Scott?
I would have to go with agree. Not to say that I wouldn't run for something in the future. That might be in my future at some point. But right now, I am totally focused on this, and I have nothing else in my mind.
Katie?
I'm not interested in running for anything else. I'm running for this seat because my background, my experience, my skill set is a really good fit for this job. I've never had any political aspirations before this, and can't imagine going through this again.
Our next question, you know, the drought is a huge issue right now. The order of this will be Scott, Sam, Jimmy, and Katie. Agree or disagree, the city should restrict individual water use? Scott?
Agree.
Sam?
I absolutely think we need to restrict and regulate, but it's a combination of tighter rules and also some incentives. We got to get people to use different methods, and it's a combination of carrot and stick.
Jimmy?
Yes, and it's about education. It's about showing people ways that they can conserve in strategic, you know, especially, you know, gray water, native plants. There's so many conservation tools. We have to accompany restrictions with education and excitement.
And Katie?
Yes.
Okay. And then the final of the short questions. Agree or disagree? I have been mischaracterized during this race. Sam?
I'm proud of the race that I've run. We've stayed positive throughout. We've never spent a dollar attacking anyone else. That's a fact. I haven't taken a dollar from a developer to our campaign, or from any PAC, or from any union, or from any business group, and that's a fact. I just love the city, and if you're mad at me for fighting for some changes, I'm sorry.
Okay, and to be clear, Katie, the question is, do you feel like you have been mischaracterized maybe by somebody else? Agree or disagree?
Yeah. So the California Apartment Owners Association has spent more than $600,000 on a smear campaign, which is full of lies and inaccuracies. And so I encourage you to do your homework and read up on me for yourself.
Scott?
I would have to say no, because I've been running the campaign that I want. And I think anybody who knows me knows I'm authentic. You get what you see tonight. It's going to be the same thing that you see when I'm knocking the doors, when I'm on the phones, and when I'm at a different forum with different folks.
And Jimmy?
You know, tonight I think I was eager and I was an ideologue. And I'm certainly eager, but I'm by no means an ideologue. I'm a pragmatist. I believe in bringing people together, having hard conversations, maintaining integrity and honesty, but that people's political views are not as hardened as we may believe at the outset.
All right, thank you very much. So now it is time for your closing statements, even though that free-for-all question sort of was a closing statement, but that's okay. You'll get even more time now. And the order for this is going to be Katie, Sam, Jimmy, and Scott, again, chosen at random. Katie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much to the organizers for putting this together, to accommodating my need to do this on Zoom. Thank you, Alex, for moderating, and thanks to everyone who tuned in to be here tonight. The first and last time a woman held this seat was in 1965. There are only 3 women on the council now out of 15. I'm not asking you to vote for me because I'm a woman. That would be silly and dumb. I'm asking you to vote for me because of the perspectives, experiences, and temperament I'll bring to the council. I know how to do the work because I've already been doing the work. I'm ready to step in and lead on the first day to make meaningful progress on the biggest challenges we're facing, from homelessness to public safety to sustainability to improving our quality of life. I look forward to partnering with each of you to make our communities into the places we know they need to become. I would be deeply honored and grateful to have your vote. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Very much, Sam.
And thank you to the neighborhood councils for organizing. This is a city of endless possibilities. If elected, I'd be the first Iranian American, the first Middle Easterner, the first refugee to ever hold office in the history of Los Angeles. But for far too long, the people who have run this city, and I would argue ran the city into the ground, have lacked the energy, diversity, creativity, integrity to lead us. And now we're at a crossroads. We're either going to continue the same failed policies of allowing our unhoused neighbors to die in our streets, to allow gun violence and crime to explode in our neighborhoods, or we're going to move forward with common sense, achievable solutions. They're all laid out on my website, sanforla.com. That's why I have the broadest coalition of anyone running in this race. Labor and business, progressives like Holly Mitchell, legends like Henry Waxman, moderates as well, and 1,300 leaders in the 5th district. I'm running for this seat because I want Los Angeles to be the same affordable, vibrant Los Angeles that it was when my family had nowhere to go in this world and arrived here with 2 suitcases 40 years ago.
Thank you very much. Jimmy.
Thank you everyone so much. Tonight was really fun, and this whole experience has just been wonderful. The last minute of a public forum, number 30, really, it's been quite something. I am a teacher, right? So I'm gonna leave everybody with a statistic, one that I think is really, really important and definitional to the future of our city. Real wages in Los Angeles have stayed completely flat for the last 50 years. The cost of housing has gone up 11 times. That gulf there between the cost of housing and real wages is responsible for so much of the economic hardship that we see. The families on the brink of eviction, the young people who see home ownership more as like winning the lottery than a transition to adulthood, and the density of street encampments. That gulf and changing the direction of those 2 lines is the entire ballgame. And I'd urge you all to think about that as you cast your vote. Thank you so much, and I look forward to getting to know you all better after the event.
Thank you. Finally, Scott.
You know, this is a job about political courage. We've had a growing affordability crisis, which has spilled out into our streets over the last few decades. We are in a moment in our world where the world is burning. And our elected officials locally have failed to embrace bold change to fix these issues locally. That's what my campaign is about. And that's what my community leadership has been about. I have not been afraid to take power on. I have fought for affordable housing, even when neighbors said, not next to my house. I have fought for sane redesigns of streets that are proven to make them safer, even when folks said, you're taking a lane away from vehicles. I have fought for housing for our unhoused neighbors and gotten it done. If that's the kind of bold leadership that you want, I ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And now's a chance. Let's applaud for everybody, right? Great job. Thank you all. Thank you all for being a respectful audience. It was great to have no protesters screaming profanities, which sometimes I deal with when I walk down the street. So it was really nice to have that be respectful tonight. I'm curious, did anybody come into tonight truly undecided? Raise your hand if you came into tonight undecided. Okay, we got a few. Did anybody decide tonight based off of what you heard? We got a few that did and a few that are still undecided. So if you guys want to work them afterwards, so you still got some work to do. We appreciate your attendance here tonight. Obviously, our city is in a precarious moment in time. The last couple of years have reminded all of us how important local government is. I think a lot of people before the pandemic didn't realize the power of the city council or the county board of supervisors, and they got to see how important that is in their daily lives. In a lot of ways, even more important than the leadership in Washington, which is so sometimes removed from our lives. And the fact that you're out here investing in this issue today, and please tell other people about it. I think the media coverage for this race has been pretty bad. And we have to take some of the blame for that, and some of my colleagues as well. And I hope to get more of it out there and raise these issues as well, and especially as we go forward towards the fall as well. Tonight, I hope you'll join me for the Fox 11 News at 10. Shameless plug. And encourage you to reach out in social media and keep the conversation going as well. Thank you all for being such a wonderful audience, and a big thank you to everybody that organized this, that worked hard to make this possible. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
All of them volunteers. And a special shout out to Dre, who really went over and above to make this all possible. Did you have a final word? Yeah. Here she is.
Sorry, I feel like you guys see me and you're like, now's the boring stuff, and I apologize for that. But I will let you know that we only have 2 boring slides right now, and after that we will have a lot of fun because all of the candidates, aside from Katie, who will be dearly missed, will be joining us at All Season Brewing on La Brea. So if you felt like their answers were a little too calculated this evening, let's buy them some shots and then see what they say. All right, so thank you so much. I mean, couldn't have asked for a better moderator. Volunteered his time. The news is breaking here. And I really appreciate your commitment to local politics. I really appreciate you bringing in a new audience to that. And on that note, for those of you, if you're in this room, I assume you know your city council district. If you're watching at home on Zoom, or you later are watching a recording, it is really easy to find out your city council district. If you have your ballot at home, you will only have one city council race to vote on. It is a safe bet that is your council district. If you do not have your ballot at home, you can go to neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org. Side note though, if you do not have your ballot at home already, this was mentioned at the top, but it can't be said enough, chances are your voter registration is not up to date with your current address. So please, please, please go online and update that. It will not be updated in time for this election if you do it online, but you can go to an in-person voting center, and you can go to any voting center in the city of LA, and you can cast a provisional ballot and update your registration at that time. For this race, you gotta do it by June 7th. You gotta get it postmarked, or gotta get in there. For those of you who got kind of excited by neighborhood councils tonight and want to know what we do, because like we're awesome, get more involved. So to find out your neighborhood council district, as we click to the next slide, you will see a URL there, which is empowerla.org/city-map. We're holding questions for public comment to the end of both forums, and I appreciate that. I thank the audience in general for being so great this time and also respecting the delayed clapping. And also thank you to the candidates on the microphone adjustment. No thanks to those candidates who did not microphone adjust. As you continue to learn about your neighborhood councils, there are a lot of ways to get involved. So most neighborhood councils are pretty large. And if you have a concern you really care about and get to know your neighbors, you can run for office and you can join your neighborhood council. It's also worth noting that once between elections, sometimes for various reasons, like for example, a neighborhood council might move out of district, people are forced to resign, and there are different ways to join your neighborhood council between elections. If you go to your neighborhood council website, you can learn whatever is true for your neighborhood council. If you don't want to join neighborhood council because you think we're maniacs who don't sleep, which is a pretty accurate assessment, I strongly suggest at the very minimum you sign up for your newsletter. You can find out about forums, you can find out about other community events like blood drives or community concerts, things like that. And that is a great way to do this. For those of you here for the Council District 13 Forum, that is going to start at 7:30. For those of you here for the Council District 5 Forum, feel free to say, those are some interesting candidates too. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you again to the Wilshire Ebell, and the biggest thanks in the world to Greater Wilshire, who really led the charge on making this happen. And then Palms also contributed in so many ways. Thanks everybody, have a great night.
I am officially
Number 6. Test.
This meeting is officially recessed until 7:30. Thank you.